Hey there. Today I wanted to talk about how to stop stressing and worrying. A lot of times people relate this to anxiety. Sometimes I just want to point out that this can be something that can be medicated if anxiety is getting in the way of you living your life. Definitely go and seek help. But these are some of the ways that you can some tips and tools to help you if it's not like interrupting your life, but it's causing you problems emotionally. So I just want to say that this is actually something I am kind of known for. I don't have anxiety, I don't stress, and I don't worry about a lot of things. I don't know if it's from my upbringing. I think some of it's from life coaching tools. I think some of it is it could be genetics. I'm not sure, but I will tell you that I'll give you the tools that help me. And so you can apply them. And this is just how I live my life. Okay. So first of all, what do I mean? What is stressing and worrying? What's your brain doing? I think it's really important for us to know why our brain does this. So this is your brain trying to predict the future, to protect you from anything bad that might happen. I want to stress might, okay? So our brain is constantly on the lookout for things that could go wrong, okay? And this was very good for our ancestors. It stopped them from getting eaten by animals. It helped them to be wary of like what berries and foods they were eating, so they didn't eat anything poisonous that was going to kill them, okay? And this is actually what we've been brought up with, right? So if we had ancestors that didn't worry, then that might be a problem. They probably wouldn't be around because they needed to be on alert all the time. But now we live in this society where we don't have to be on that high alert all the time, but our brain is still doing those things. So I just want to show you that this worry, the stress, this anxiety is kind of like a faulty warning sign, okay? Unless you're literally living out in the woods and you need to be on the lookout for bears and tigers all the time. Like if you're living in our society today, it might be a little bit different. And I'm not saying all worry and all stress is going to go away. I think that some of it is necessary and good for us, right? So the other day I went hiking with my family. My kids were standing on the edge of a cliff, what seemed like, and I had a lot of stress and anxiety about that. Okay. And I think that that's good. I think it helps keep us on alert, things that could be dangerous. So just realize like our brain is just trying to do what's best for us, but it's kind of gone into overdrive. Okay. And so we're just kind of pulling that back we want to get kind of back to the essential anxiety, stress, worry that will actually protect our lives. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to talk about some of the ways that the tools that I use to help me not feel stress and anxiety. Okay. So first of all, I wrote down, stop playing the what if game halfway through. Okay. So what happens is we have like a circumstance or a scenario where we are stressing about, okay? And our brain just says, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if, and it's trying to predict all these things because that's what our brain does. It's a prediction machine. It's trying to take past events and predict future events, like all the things that could possibly happen. And we just play it halfway through. And what I mean by that is we're not seeing what could actually happen and what we would be feeling. Okay. We just are like, leave it hanging there. So our brain also likes what's called a closed loop. Okay. So when we leave like ourselves with a question, our brain wants to close that loop. And when we don't close the question, right? We just leave it kind of hanging there in the air. Our brain just kind of fixates on it. Okay. So it wants to, it's just like if I told you half of a joke or half of a story and you're like, what's the other part, right? Like our brain wants to finish that. It wants to complete that. And when we're stressing and worrying, we're not completing that. So just realize we want to play it all the way through. We want to complete those what ifs. Okay. So you want to go to like worst case scenario. That's what our brain does naturally. Like I said, it keeps us on the lookout. But I want you to know that the worst that can happen to you is a feeling. Okay. When we go through this, we're going to go through each worst case scenario and we're going to say what feeling we would have if that were to happen. So I'm going to give you an example. My child isn't doing well in school. That's an example. Okay. And my brain wants to go, what if they don't get into the college they want to? What if they have to live in my basement? What if they are sad, right? What if they have to retake the class? What if they drop out of school and can't get a good job? Okay, so that's the what ifs. Now we need to play all the way through. What will happen, right? What happens if they don't get into the college they want to? Then they're going to be sad. And then I'm going to be sad for them, right? What if they have to live in my basement forever, right? What will happen then, right? Maybe they'll be frustrated and I'll be frustrated, right? What if they have to retake the class, right? They might be same thing. They might feel defeated and frustrated. They might feel dumb. And then I'm going to feel frustrated, dumb, angry, all those things. We're looking at for our feelings, not our child's feeling in this instance, but how are we going to feel if these things happen, right? So you want to like write out on a piece of paper, write out all the worst case scenario. If your brain's saying, what if this happens? I want you to say, then, right? Then what's going to happen and how are you going to feel? So you write all this down for just one thing at a time. So just choose one circumstance, one scenario, right? And you write down all of those things and how each one will make you feel. Okay, so this can complete that loop. So our brain's like, oh, if my child has to live in my basement, right, I might be really annoyed and frustrated, right? Whatever the case is. Okay, now, maybe after that part, I want you to just reassure your brain that these things may not even happen. Okay, right? Like really, we are just daydreaming. All of that stress and worry is just in our imagination. None of it's happened. None of it's proven to happen. Like we're just making it all up. So just reassuring yourself, like this may not even happen. That's step 2. Look at all those and be like, that might not even happen. That's one of the things I like to do. And then, you know, just that reassuring ourselves, like looking at all that and being like, that's interesting. My brain sees all of these things and is scared of me feeling this way, and it might not even happen. Okay. So all of those things you wrote down on that first piece of paper and all the ways that you're going to feel, that you think you're going to feel, what I like to do is then write down how you want to feel if that happens. So say that my child doesn't get into college and the college they want, or the college, any college, they don't get into college. And my initial reaction is to feel frustrated or angry or sad or whatever, right? That's how my brain's like, that's how we're going to feel. But the second part is I want you to write down how you want to feel if it happens. So if my child doesn't get into this college, I might actually want to feel sad, but I might also want to feel okay about it. Might want to feel like neutral or content or whatever that case is, right? And this is not to get you out of feeling sad, right? Like I said, I might want to feel sad because if I see my child is sad, I like to be sad when my child is sad. I know that's a weird thing, but I want to feel that compassion and sympathy for them, right? So I look at those things, right? So if my child has to live in my basement, I might be frustrated and angry is where my normal brain goes to, but how do I want to feel about that? For me, I've actually thought about this and I'm like, I actually want to feel great if my child has to live in my basement, because I would love to have my child live in my basement, right? Like I love my kids, I love being with them, all those types of things. So you can decide that now and say, if any of these things happen, like you can actually start looking at them and choosing how you want to feel about it, right? If my child has to retake the class, I can feel okay about that. I don't have to feel frustrated. I want to feel like, hey, this was a good learning experience for them and they'll, get it this time around. If they drop out of school and have to work a low-paying job, how do I want to feel about that? Do I want to be angry, or do I want to be like, I told you so? Or do I want to feel loving and kind and help them travel through life and guide them through life, that kind of thing? Decide now how you want to feel about those things. Okay. And this doesn't just have to be about your child. It can be about your job. It can be about your house. It can be about moving, whatever you're stressing about, your marriage, any of these things. Okay. And you just look and you're like, if that thing happens, I get to choose how I want to feel. Decide now how you want to feel. And like, think, what would I be thinking if I was going to feel that? So it's the same thing. It's thoughts and feelings. So in order to feel good about my child living in my basement, I'm going to have to think, I love that I get to spend this time with my kid while they're still young, right? Or whatever the case is. Okay. Like this is extra quality time, whatever the thing is. And so we look at those. Okay. So Number 3, after we have all that, I also like to say best case scenario. Okay. Our brain always wants to go to worst case scenario. And we can turn that around into like, it's okay, it's fine. But we can also go best case scenario. I want you to realize, like I said, all of these scenarios are just in your brain floating around. So we might as well think of the good things that could happen too, right? Even if my kid flunks his class, flunks lots of classes, whatever the case is, what's some of the good case scenarios, right? Like maybe my child ends up becoming a YouTube star. Maybe they find that they don't like health classes or whatever it is, and they decide, they're really into interior design or something. So they like learn something about themselves and they become really great at this thing. Maybe they retake the class and ace it the next time. Like that could happen too, like best case scenario, right? Whatever. Or they even do it before, they turn it around, they get a tutor and they pass the class and they learn something, right? Like, so give your brain some best case scenario things to think about. That's what I like to do. A lot of times people will say, well, isn't that just putting your head in the sand? I don't think I'm not avoiding the bad things that could happen. I just know that there's really good things that could happen too. And it's happened in my life. And I think that more that we focus on those worst case scenarios and all the bad things that could happen, we like tend to like go there. So like also focus on the good. Like what could we create? Like I always think about this. And like I said, if your child's not doing well in a class, I'm like, what can we do? And that's a good question to ask yourself. Like, what can I do to help this situation? Not to pressure my kid into anything. So I had my oldest son, he was struggling in calculus, right? And I've not always thought this way, but like in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've thought a lot about, it's not my responsibility if he gets bad grades because that's his choice. And people would say, well, no, you need to help him. I'm always there to support him. I will give him anything that he needs, right? Like if I can afford a tutor, if he can get a tutor, if he can go in after school and get extra hours with his teacher, but his grades are not on me. He gets to decide those things. And I get to encourage him, right? Like, you might want to really do good in this class because it's going to stop you from getting into the next level class, or, this might show up bad for the colleges, those kinds of things. I try to guide him so that he's not just like, oh, this doesn't matter. But I said, I support him, right? But I always let that be on him. Just so one tip, right? Like I don't have to control his grades. That is not up to me. That's up to him, right? It's his life and I support him and I will guide him and do my best. But like ultimately, if he fails a class, that's up to him. And I'll just try and even guide and support him through that, right? So he was worried about this calculus class. He's like, I'm going to flunk. I'm like, worst case scenario, you just retake the class, right? And it'll be okay. And it's like, but it'll be on my transcripts. It'll be okay, right? Like I'm like, let's get you a tutor. Let's get you in. So just realize like how do I want to show up is way better than stressing about like, what if he doesn't pass his class and then what? And then he'll never get into the college he wants. And that's so it's like, where does that take us? It doesn't really help us or lead to beneficial things. But next, okay. So if you are in a very like stressed out, worried, anxiety type position, and you notice this because your heart's beating faster or you're got a headache or you're tense in your shoulders, the fastest way to like disseminate that and even it out is to just slow it down. Okay. So be present. So I wrote down a few things that you can do like emergency type situations. First is a few deep breaths. Okay. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Right. And we're just calming yourself down. And I like to put my hands on my heart. Okay. And just kind of turn inside, right? Because what happens when we're stressed out and worried is our breath starts to get really shallow. And so we want to deepen our breath, right? We're basically telling our nervous system that we're not being chased by a tiger. Like there's nothing here. We're right here, right now. Right now, I'm safe in this place. And so that's actually one thing I wrote down. So deep breaths, I wrote down in for 5, out for 7. Okay. So the longer out breaths are really good. You can go for a walk. Okay. This is just stand up, changing our state can be very helpful. Stand up, maybe even just walk around your house. If it's too cold outside, like it is here in Wyoming, just, those little things. The other one I put is like, look right where you're at and like test your, like say, I can see this, I can touch this, I can smell this, I can taste this, like be very present. So think about what can I hear, those kinds of things, and just look around. And even one of the things I really like to do, and I think can help you be very present and grounded, is to have like, I'm grateful that I'm here in this home, or I'm grateful, whatever. Okay. The other thing is I am safe, right? Like right in this moment, I am safe. My child is safe. We're okay. So we bring it all back down because like I said, worry, stress, anxiety, that's all future based. Okay. So we have to bring it back to the present where we're at right now. And I am safe. Okay. If you're physically safe, mentally safe, emotionally safe, those kinds of things. Okay. I'm safe. And then also, I always recommend having a meditation practice. You can use meditation right in the moment. If you have that, I have a meditation app called Calm that I like to use. I use it daily, just 10 minutes. Sometimes I meditate longer, it just depends, but have a meditation practice that can really help us to get back to this present state a lot quicker. The more that we practice, then we can start to use it in our regular day-to-day lives and we can bring it back. And it's very helpful. Okay. So maybe start a meditation practice, but also in the moment, you can just sit down and meditate, just focus on your breathing. That's really what I mean by meditation. Just sit down and pay attention to your breathing and slow it down. Okay. Okay. Last thing, none of this means that everything will be rainbows and daisies. Okay. Just because I have a positive outlook on life doesn't mean nothing ever doesn't go wrong. Okay. So just right. There will be emotions that come up and are not enjoyable. Things that you don't want to feel, thoughts that are there. We are all humans. I still have thoughts that bring up worry and anxiety and stress sometimes. Okay. I've just gotten quicker at like neutralizing them, thinking more positive thoughts about the future. Okay. So this is really like a skill, a muscle that you can build. Okay. But just know that your brain is creating these feelings and that you can handle them. That's one of the best things I've ever done for myself, is learn how to process and feel emotions. Because now it doesn't matter what emotions come up. I know that I can handle them. Doesn't mean I want to feel them. No, it does not. In fact, just earlier today, I was feeling scared about doing something and I didn't do it. I just thought, I like was proud of myself for as far as I went doing the thing. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but like, other than that, like, I was just like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Right. And so just realize like, we don't have to go through all of these. Sometimes life forces us to, and it's hard, but I know that I can handle it. Okay. But I don't always choose to because it's not fun and I don't want to do it. And I'm human. So that's the other part of that. Okay. Lastly, this is something that actually is basically my mantra for life. Okay. And it will all be okay. It will all be okay. If my child has to live in my basement, if I had to get a divorce, if I'm not saying I'm getting a divorce, if I had to move, if I, even if somebody passed away that I love, all of these different things, okay, I know that it will all be okay. The world keeps on going. And this can be very sad sometimes, but sometimes we're like, we want the world to stop, but the world keeps on going, right? I will die one day. My loved ones will die one day and I will grieve them and I will not like it one bit and it will be super hard, but it will all be okay, whatever that means. Okay. So just realizing like, that may not be true for you, but that is how I live my life. I know that terrible things are going to happen and it will all be okay, whatever that means. Okay. And it doesn't have like it doesn't mean I'm going to be thriving, right? Like if I was homeless, it will all be okay, right? Whatever that means, that's just how I live my life. And it gives me a lot of peace. Okay. So, but you find what works for you. If that does not resonate with you and you're like, that will not be okay, you need to like find something that works for you. But that's the way I live my life. And you get to decide that too. You can try it on. You can totally try that on for you. I just know that I can handle those emotions. And that is a huge deal for me. If you know that you can handle it, people are like, I don't know how I could go through that. I'm like, sure you could. Just like everybody else before us ever went through these things. Some people, they survived, right? And there's that saying like, did you die? Right. And I don't really like that. Like sometimes I think it's kind of fun, right? Whatever, you did the thing. Did you die? No. But like realizing like you can figure these things out for you that like make you feel like it's all going to be okay. Whatever that is. Okay. I wrote down this quote and it says, worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy. And I'm going to tell you who that's by so I don't misquote them. And it is by a guy named Leo Buscaglia. Not sure who that is, but I've heard this quote before and I love it. Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy. Worry is happening now, not in the future. We feel it now. Okay. That's all the future does not exist yet. So when we worry about it now, it doesn't actually prevent any of those things from happening. Okay. It doesn't make them go away. It just makes us feel bad now. Okay. And that's okay. Like I said, we're all human. We all have these moments where we have anxiety, stress, worry, whatever that is. But just realize like right now, is that actually doing anything for tomorrow? And then go through the steps that I was talking about, right? Listing out those things. And I want to say, the more you do this, the more natural it will become. That's how it's worked for me. I used to worry more. I worry a lot less now. Okay. I wasn't a huge worrier, but I just want to say that I worry much less now because I know it's in my brain. Okay. And this is not a one and done, right? Like the people always are like, I tried that. Like, how long did you try it? How many times did you try it? This is just like if you were going to the doctor and they said, here, take this pill every day, this anti-anxiety medication. You need to take it every day for, whatever. Why do we have to take it every day? Just the same reason we have meditation practice that we do every day. It doesn't last forever, right? We have to be on these things. So everybody's like, I just want a pill. It's easier. It's not actually any easier. There's lots of side effects, and some people may need it. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm totally all for it, but you have to do this repeated as often as necessary, Does it take a little more time than taking a pill? Yes, but it has longer effects, like as they start to build up. Like this is something that happens more naturally for me now, right? If I take a pill for my anxiety, it works for a little bit of time on kind of numbing those emotions and whatever that is, right? However they work, but it doesn't last forever. You have to continue to take that pill every day for the rest of your life, or you have to up your dosage or whatever the case is. These things, they build on top of each other. These tools I'm giving you, they build, unlike a pill that doesn't build, like it gets reduced in effectiveness the more we take it. The opposite is for these. They build and build on one another. And so it becomes a muscle in your brain. Your brain starts to make those connections that like, hey, let's think this way. It's actually more productive. It's more useful. I feel better. I'm thriving my life more. And so we start to do that. Okay. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully you can use these tools to stop stressing and stop worrying. And like I said, choose one circumstance, one scenario that's bothering you and work through it. Okay. One at a time. You can do more, but like go through the whole thing all at a time. And like that will help you. Also, if you want to work with me, I do one-on-one coaching. You can go ahead and schedule a call with me on my calendar. I will put the link to it in the notes and in the description. And feel free to reach out to me and hopefully I can see you around. Have a good day. Bye.